So look, another flinder This time, bang on 3 years today, we started Flinder, didn't we? What a journey, what a roller coaster, ups and downs. Sorry mate, go for it.
Just saying it, crazy 3 years, and it was great to be away in Morzine when we celebrated our first and then second year anniversary. Have to have a belated one with the team in March on our ski trip. But it's just absolutely flown by from kind of resigning from Big Four at PwC to setting up our own business and kind of going out on our own.
Yeah, and it's had its trials and tribulations along the way, some challenges, and obviously some major high points, and I guess in some ways it exceeded some expectations.
Yeah.
But in equally other ways, it's probably not got to some expectations, I would say, in some aspects as well. But nonetheless, an incredible ride.
So, whilst to put you on the spot, then what's not hit expectations? Then you say some bits haven't.
Yeah, so I think. Well, maybe not, maybe not hit expectations, but I guess kind of if you think back 3 years ago, did you think you'd be still working in the business as much as you are now and as many hours as you are now?
I'd say actually it's been such a whirlwind. I'm not sure what I expected. When we first set out, I think it's some sort of stat of like only 20% of businesses make it past 2 years. So actually when we hit the 2 year mark, it was so exciting that we were doing really well and still in business and growing that I hadn't really looked to what 3 years would look like. I think every year we always set ourselves objectives, and one of them last year, which we didn't quite hit what we wanted to, was removing ourselves from delivery, focusing kind of on the business rather than being in the business. And that's one we need to improve on again this year. But our roles become almost adapting to depending on what team we brought in. So we've had some fantastic senior hires this year, which has allowed us to kind of step away from some of the people elements. Actually, a next hire we've got coming in, I think that will get me away from like core month-to-month delivery and focus on just kind of review. But actually, I don't know, we might all of a sudden get 2-3 really large clients, which means I have to then jump back into project work and stuff like that. So it's the unknown nature of it. Still happens kind of month in, month out. Every time I look ahead a month, I kind of think, I'm going to do this, and it never goes off my to-do list as an example.
What do you think has been maybe one of the best decisions we made and one of the worst decisions? So let's go with the worst first. What's been the worst decision you think we've made?
So I think the example you've given before of like ripping off that Band-Aid. So when there's the decision that we know is going to be made eventually, it's making that decision, acting on our gut, acting on our instinct on it. And at the end of the day, we want to grow a fantastic business. And so unfortunately it does come down to people sometimes. And moving people on that aren't the right fit for the longer term vision. It is so important, and we've been fortunate with like 90% of our hires have worked out fantastically, but sometimes the fit just isn't going to be right. And when we've identified that that's not going to be the right fit, to kind of make that hard decision early on, and that's something that like personally it's kind of a horrible kind of decision to have to make, and you'd hope you never have to make that sort of decision in a business, but actually for the business's growth, it's so important.
Yeah, and that is very, very difficult on a personal level to make those, especially when you're such a close, tight-knit team. But at the end of the day, it's not a personal decision, is it? It's a business decision for the benefit of the business, almost as a separate entity, obviously a separate legal entity, but almost as a separate being, that it has to be self-fulfilling and has to be propelled forward, almost for the benefit of the business. It's those tough decisions, and that's not a fun scenario to be in, is it? But one you've got to take the responsibility for making that action, really, as the business owners.
And the other conversation we've had recently it links into is kind of actually if some work we're doing or the sort of opportunity, like we want to build recurring revenue. So actually if one-off opportunities come along, whilst it's fantastic to that additional consulting, one-off pieces of work, sometimes if that distracts us from the longer term aim, then we've got to kind of be careful about what work we take on. Is it right fit for the business as well? And which again is a hard decision naturally to turn away revenue and work.
I think that's certainly probably one of the biggest reflections that we had in 2020. In 2019, one of the biggest reflections was we had some great one-off opportunities, but actually it brought me back into the doing in the business because of the skills required and the capacity of the team. And actually, we probably should have said no to that piece of work with a view, and because we could have won a lot more work despite of that, or in spite of that, which is recurring revenue. Although great project that we did work on, but actually it's probably to the detriment of the development of the growth of the business. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest lessons that we had in 2019, I think. So what about the best decision?
It probably reflects on what the worst kind of part of it has been is around the people again, because actually seeing the team grow, seeing the team come on, like a very kind of recent success is us putting the process in around soft closes and just seeing like the tangible effect that has, and like the last 12 months have been so much around standardizing our app stack, everyone being on one process. So when those things start to come to fruition, it's kind of really rewarding to see that take place. So yeah, I'd say it's kind of around, so to go back to the question, it would be around the people, bringing people on, having kind of really exciting next 12 months and hiring plans ahead of us as well.
I think for me, one of the best decisions we made when we set up was really and it was probably a bit of a fuzzy line to begin with because it's all hands to the deck, but as we've gone through in time, we've kind of split the roles, our roles are very much kind of focused on different aspects. Contrary to a lot of partnerships that it's kind of like one partner looks after his P&L and his clients and his favorite staff and another one, and they might all be in the same building together, they might all have the same company name, etc., but actually they're not really working in harmony with each other. I think the fact that we work in harmony and we very much split much more like a corporate is probably one of the best decisions that we made in terms of going after the strategy, the winning new clients, and then servicing the delivery. I think that has probably given us the bedrock for such the growth that we've had and the quality that we have, and bringing in the clients and all that. For me, that's probably one of the best.
What did you say recently about we're accounting firm third, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Brand first, business second, accounting firm third. That's very much the kind of the mindset that we want to have, isn't it? But I definitely think for any new accounting firm or business, very much having that corporate mindset and splitting the role of integrator and visionary separate rather than both playing both hats, I think has done us.
And there naturally is still kind of some crossover, and we do get better at almost pulling each other up on it. I know we use Slack, which is fantastic for communications, but actually it gives us sight of everything. So it's hard for us to pull ourselves away from answering a question and things like that when it kind of probably falls to the other person. But I think we kind of always get better at that. And one of the things we always say is we weren't meeting enough. We didn't discuss our own business enough. And I can't remember the last time we didn't have our weekly catch-ups that we have on a Monday, and we have a week in review on a Friday, which that one probably
we might
slips,
have done a few.
That one slips the most. But actually kicking the week off. But
in fairness, though, because we speak so often during the week, actually it comes to Friday. It's not a kind of we don't need it per se. It's we've spoken about it as and when we go, haven't we? So I think communication between ourselves is hugely like important as well, and kind of driving the business and understanding what issues or challenges might be going on.
Yeah, and knowing when to, there's some stuff that I'm sure both ways we don't bother each other with anymore, whereas take it back a year ago, we would have known about stuff where we're like, well, actually, you didn't really need to tell me that. So I think we're naturally better at that now.
Which reminds me, I need to catch up with you on a recruit that I spoke about earlier, so good reminder. What do you think has been the biggest challenge? Like, we talked about the highs and lows, but what's been the biggest challenge along the way that you think we've had in the 3 years?
So if I focus kind of more recently, I touched around like the automation, the standardization, and so obviously me being responsible for client delivery, so if I pick up something from that area, and you can probably touch more strategically, it would be getting the team to take their kind of head out of the detail, because we're running a kind of pace all the time, we're throwing new clients in the mix all the time, that sometimes it's really difficult to take a step back and say, right, how can I make this process more efficient? Like, we've implemented Teleroo recently, which has been fantastic for us, but actually we still have a few clients that aren't doing payment runs on Teleroo, and we implemented that probably about 3 months ago. So why haven't we got to that point? But then we've thrown Silverfin at the team, we've thrown Teleroo, we've thrown we only use Receipt Bank. So there's all this standardization we're doing. We're moving so fast paced that it's sometimes actually like, do the team have time to kind of breathe, get through the month ends and implement this? And that's kind of been the real delivery challenge that we've really had over the last 12 months.
It's interesting, that, isn't it? And one of the points I've said to some of the team is, rather than be head down focused on the task you're doing, stop for 15 minutes and look out the window and think. And I get some of them looking at me going, what the fuck is he talking about, right? Like, I'm busy. But actually, if you take that step back and think for 15 minutes, look out the window, actually, that can give you, one, it can give you the kind of the mental rest that you need to then attack again. But equally, it can give you a fresh perspective on, what am I doing? Am I doing it the most efficient way? And just really helping you think outside the box and get the best out of a process or technology or those efficiencies, or just reflect on control. Right?
It's a real challenge there, because at the same time we'll say to them, oh, I wanted this 15 minutes ago. So it's that balance up between kind of the demands of two demanding founders, like asking for stuff versus clients shouting for stuff. But you're so right, taking that time out to think, and that's why we go away on strategy sessions. Exactly. We need to do that thinking as well.
And sometimes you can be a busy fool, though, right? And that's what we want to get the team out of. I'm not saying they're suggesting they're fools, but like, rather than just being busy for the sake of it, like, think a lot more strategically in how they can get the best out of a situation or improve a process.
It's not how many hours you can work, it's how smart you can work during those hours. It's not about putting 60-hour weeks in, it's about doing a smart 40-hour week.
Exactly, and it's very much outcome focused, which is another thing that we pride ourselves on, to be outcome focused, not being there from 9 till 5 or 9 till 6 or 9 till 8 or whatever it is very much focused on outcomes, and if you get it done quicker, then actually fantastic for you.
So I'd like to touch on strategic side, because I talked on delivery. What would you say has been the biggest challenge in over last 12 months?
So, I think one of the biggest challenges we had early on, and I'll come back to the 12 months, was when our kind of the first client we lost, if you remember, it was quite a chunky size of our portfolio, and that was just about 12 months into the business. We just hired 2 people in very short succession. So we've gone from 2 to 4 people, and we kind of, we continually stretch ourselves in terms of hiring when we can and capacity wise. And we that client unfortunately went bust, and we kind of knew it would do. That's why we were involved with it in the first place. It was a huge part of our portfolio. That was a real challenge at the time, just from a cash flow perspective. And it did at that time teach us not to put all our eggs in one basket, because it was it was a big fee. It was what, $3.5K or something like that. So it was a month, so it was a big fee. So I think that was probably one of the challenges early on. I think continuing that same vein for the last 12 months, for us it's about the fine balance between cash flow forecasting, capacity, and bringing on new team members, and trying to get that and keep racing at pace to where we want to get to with our objectives. And of course you have to hire ahead of a plan in order to have the capacity to bring on new clients. You can't have one person for 1 day a week, for example, and bring good full-time equivalents on like that. So I think that's probably one of the main challenges I have, is to look at you from the capacity perspective, but me from the kind of like, can we manage that? Well, growth.
Those two fine balances.
Yeah, exactly. It's those kind of three kind of competing or complementary components. So that's probably been a bit of a challenge. I guess also challenge on our time, because we work very long hours. We work 6-7 days a week most of the time, to some element, maybe not full, obviously not full days, still 3 years in, otherwise we'd be totally burnt out. But I think the fact that as a business owner, while it's great to be in charge of your own destiny, which we very much are, I think you're always on. And I think, I felt, when I was at PwC, I felt super committed to my role, the firm. I would be committed to my clients. I'd get shit done in order to meet those deadlines. But actually, it takes it to a whole new level when you've got your own business. You can never do too many hours. It's a bit like studying, right? You can never revise too much for an exam.
There's always something that can be done.
There's always stuff that we can be doing, and it's really hard to go, actually, do you know what? I'm going to pause this weekend. I'm going to take a refresher. I'm going to chill out for a bit, rather than kind of always be on with that email mentality or just kind of.
It's certainly got better. Though I remember, 2 years ago, a weekend it would be constantly thinking about work. Even if I was playing football, it'd be straight away after back to do some.
Is that why you let so many goals in?
Exactly. Thinking about too many other things. So I think things do always get better, and I think even the team would say that as well. Some of the team that have been with us for just over 2 years now, that the hours they would have worked and that effort they would have put in, it becomes more manageable with anything in life. With kind of time, you kind of understand it more. And one of the things that I can't remember if we even did one of these this time last year, but it'd be quite interesting to hear what we would have thought the challenges were. So asking the same question now, and we'll make sure we watch it back next time. What do you think we'll be saying in 12 months' time will be the challenges?
So interestingly, the first part of that, if you remember, we tried to do one when we were away skiing, and it didn't actually record. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So what do I think the challenges next year will be? In a way, I think we're probably going to have similar challenges next year as we did this year. But maybe, I think for me, we need to really, really get on top of technology in a lot more. We've got what, 19 or so, 20 people, and you know where we are in a business, you can get there without being super mature in processes and technology. To make the leap and double in terms of double revenue, which is what our objectives are for 2020, I think we really need to be super slick, super connected, and have every duck in a row in terms of processes and technology. Otherwise, at that scale, it'll fall over. And right now, we're running at an incredible client satisfaction score and great quality, great feedback, a happy team. I think it's about more of nailing down those processes and the technology so it's super seamless. That for me is a real objective for this year.
One of the things we spoke about recently actually is it's almost having that, not calmer period, because we're an ambitious company, so it's never going to be calm, but allowing things to bed in, to allow to iron out those processes. We're focusing on like the people work stream around onboarding the team, etc. in this quarter, but then that pulls away from what our objectives and strategy are. So it's that fine balance between not bringing too many clients on too quickly versus not bringing any on at all, and therefore stifling our growth, stifling our team growth and development.
And I think it's fair to say we've always been quite measured in bringing client numbers on because we want to maintain that super high quality and not dilute what we are as a brand. And reputation is absolutely everything to us.
And working with the right type of business as well. There's stuff at like the wrong price point or the wrong type of businesses that we could have probably gone after. But I think it's important that we maintain that kind of high ambitious type tech focused company as well, because actually that's what our team find exciting. That's what they're going to really learn from as well.
Yeah, so I think certainly the people work stream that we're putting in place, so to have a super rounded people methodology in terms of we obviously do feedback at the moment, but just really rounding that out in terms of competency framework, our expectations, leveling, all that sort of stuff from the team, and just a really sound sales cycle as well. That's something I really want to get put in place, because in order to we can get to 2020 objectives just the way we are, but we really need a super slick sales cycle. And you know, one thing that I think really lacks in any accounting firm that I've ever seen is a really, really super slick sales process and onboarding, and it's very heavily reliant on very senior staff. So that's something we really want to focus on as well. But there's a load of stuff that we could talk about. It's all in our OKRs, of course, but I guess we're probably running out of time for this video. So I guess the only other thing to say is we are going to have an amazing time skiing to celebrate our 3 years in business, aren't we, buddy? There we go. Talks, be sure to look out for some of our other Flinder Talks in the links below and some of the other connected videos. Yeah, give us a like on LinkedIn, YouTube, whichever kind of media you're watching on. I'm really looking forward to our one we'll be doing next week, where we're going to try and link in the basics of teaching skiing, how that can translate into business and kind of running businesses as well. And coaching, absolutely fantastic. It'll be a great conversation, that, and we'll have it as the backdrop will be the mountains in Morzine and Avoria in the French Alps. So see you again soon. Cheers.